with Andreas made some tests on this quite simple example, but quite interesting because it is nice. You can plot it on the screen. So you have here the flow field of this switched system. So you have here the invariant sets here because of the square roots in the equations. Your model is not valid here because in feasible situations. You have a switching line here. You have to switch between two modes which correspond when the flow reaches this height. And you have all the flow field, and you can see there is an equilibrium point here, for instance, and so on. So what we could do, combining our IOLAVABE probability, I didn't tell you how it works, but I will tell you later. But we could, using our reachability tool combined with iSAT solver, satisfiability solver, for instance, we could prove that any trajectory starting from this D set in green could never reach the E set in purple. Okay? So they had computation times and the computer that has been used for this. We could also address the problem of region stability, quite close to what Stefan or Luc are trying to investigate. Is there possible to find a region in state space? For instance, if a trajectory starts from this region, it may leave the region, but then come back and stay there forever. So it has the right to leave once, but then if it comes back, it must stay there forever. And using a smart way to do it, that is from defining a SAT-ODE formula, where the target is that the set is either not reached at twice tau or left during twice tau. So then using this in a satisfiability solver, we could have a verification of this formula, as I said already. And the idea is that we have a kind of inductive analysis where we prove this, assuming the system time invariant. We prove this for a horizon 0 to 2 tau, and it leaves whatever it can live here, but when it is there, it stays there during this time horizon. Then we can do this in a recursive way, and you can prove infinite time property. So, of course, it's a combination of reachability, constraint satisfaction, and there is a huge piece of work that is SAT-ODE that is doing. Our contribution is only the nonlinear reachability that is embedded in it. And for instance, we could prove that this region is stable as I have decided, because you can consider you have some trajectories that can leave this region but then come back and stay there forever. So we could prove this kind of results. So this is only one kind of results we can do. We can do, of course, any kind of work involving the reachability, computing the reachability set of a nonlinear system. Okay, so what about technical features? The problem is to solve an IDP-ODE with initial conditions or parameters that are uncertain. Of course, we consider an ordinary differential equation that can be nonlinear. And I will just give you some keywords. But of course, what we mean by set integration, maybe some of the talks were related to this kind of problems. The idea is to compute over the time grid that can be a time-varying tight enclosures of the solution of the differential equation. And most methods work in 2 steps. Proof of existence using Picard operator and fixed point theorem. Compute an enclosure of the whole trajectory over between 2 time steps, and then use this enclosure in the remainder of the Taylor series in order to have inequality here, and then you just have to extend these 2 sets, and you have an analytical nice equation that you can write on whiteboard, but it is theoretically sound, but of course in practical situation there are many issues, and there is a huge work of change of coordinate in order to control the trapping effect. And of course, these work, piece of work, 13, 40 years of investigation are now gathered in this software by Nedialko, VNODE-LP, which is once again the best state-of-the-art interval solver for an issue about the problem in ordinary differential equations, and it is available on its open source and available for use. Okay. In fact, VNODE is very powerful, but there is intrinsic problems in dynamical systems when you have large uncertainties, large parameter uncertainties. This kind of software, no way that they cannot give you practical or usable sets, and they usually blow up. So we had to investigate alternatives. And one of the alternatives we had investigated is the comparison theorems, or differential inequalities, and the most interesting one is the Müller existence theorem. Published in 1936, has been brought to France by Michel Kiefer and Eric Walter. And then we use this theorem for building a technique that will give you, for a given dynamical system, a maximal solution that is a solution that will bound the reachable set by above, and the minimal solution that is a solution that will remains always below the all possible trajectories. So here you have time, and you have the time history of a state variable. And for instance, you have some example. We have several ones in red and in blue. What can give the Müller's theorem? What Müller's theorem does, in fact, it says the following: given a vector flow here, a differential equation, we have to define, let's consider a box in the state space, and we assume that this box contains the initial conditions. The question is, where would lie this set in the next time step? So the idea of the theorem is the following, is that you compute the maximal value over this edge for the flow. You do the same for this one, you compute the max, this one is compute the max, this is state variables, so this is the maximum value for the state variables, so you compute the maximum possible evolution vector, and here you compute only the minimum over these two lines. And then you just have to expand the box according to these maximum and minimum values, and then you will have the box containing the solution set for the next time step. So that's, loosely speaking, what does the Müller's theorem. Of course, the most difficult part is how to build these bracketing systems. So there was this idea, Michel Kiefer and myself had almost the same idea at the same time. And the idea is to analyze the monotonicity of this algebraic equation. The algebraic expression of the evolution function, we could analyze it using partial derivatives and try to figure out whether it is monotone or not, and then simply instantiate correctly the parameters to upper or lower bounds, and hence have an analytical expression of the dynamical systems that will bound the actual one by the lower and by the above. And you end up with differential equations for the bracketing or enclosures, for the bracketing systems. You can write down, in symbolic manner, you can write down the differential equations that must be satisfied by the bracketing systems. In fact, in a monograph by Walter in the 70s, this idea of coupled differential equations was already mentioned, so it's not new. It is not surprised. I'm not surprised that this was the result. Let's see a simple example, 5-dimensional system. It is quite simple, in fact. Nonlinear one coming from biology. If we apply directly the rule for building this bracketing system, we end up with twice-dimensional coupled differential equations, and you can see here lower bounds, upper bounds, and the lower bound here is, let's say, this one. This lower bound depends on the upper bound of this third variable. So it's a couple of differential equations. But in fact, this is not, it is okay, it is not an issue, because this system has a particular property. I will show it later. Kind of result we can obtain here is the reachable set over a finite time when you have no uncertainty in parameters but uncertainty in initial conditions. See how large they are, 100%. So we can have large uncertainties in initial conditions, and hence and still we can compute the reachable set. So here it converges towards eventually to the stable equilibrium of the system. And if you have uncertain parameters, it converges to a non-zero set, which is the locus of all the stable equilibrium. Okay, the rule for computing these bracketing systems, of course, analyzes monotonicity of the given function over a subset of state variables. So here, for instance, you have these derivatives that may change sign over time. Hence, we came out with an idea of having a hybrid automaton to model the bracketing system of a continuous system, and which allows you to, in fact, switch the dynamical equations for the boundaries according to the locus of the reachable set. If you are in this area, you have one bounding enclosures. If you are here, you do something else, and then here you have another one. So that was the main ideas. And then there is one particular kind of systems that have very nice properties. And these systems are monotone order preserving systems in the way that they preserve an ordering of initial conditions. And if this is the case, in the general here, and in particular case of monotone with respect to octane cones in real numbers, you can find a change of sign, which will modify the system to a cooperative one. And then it is enough to just to choose the lower bound for initial conditions and the upper bound for initial conditions, and then you have the reachable set in presence of uncertainty. And for instance, this is the system we analyzed previously. We have a rule, graphical rule by Kunze, that gives you a way to check that the system is monotone with respect to octane cone, and hence you can change you can make nice change of signs and obtain a cooperative system. Okay, nonlinear hybridization applies also, but what is nice about that is that the two bracketing systems are now decoupled, and we obtain what I've shown earlier, that is the blue. The maximal solution can be computed without having to compute the lower one in this very specific case of a monotone system. Okay, so we had two pieces of software available, or two ideas. Interval Taylor method, or VNODE, is more than interval. It's a Hermiter-Oberskopf. It's kind of implicit, explicit interval Taylor method. Very strong, very powerful. And we have, on the other side, bracketing systems. Theory works well on monotone system, on strongly stable systems, but sometimes may not be as good as expected. So we wanted to compare this kind of system, typically in biology, bioreactors, kind of engineered by hand to show what you want to show, uncertainty parameters. And here you have what can give VNODE. It blows up. And here you have bracketing systems obtained by the bracketing by the theory of Müller and Müller's theorem plus the rule for building this bracketing system. And we use upon this coupled differential equation VNODE again. So we have bracketing guaranteed enclosures for the bounding systems, and you can see they behave quite nicely on this system. However, on very simple system where you have oscillation being cycle here, very simple, VNODE is definitely more powerful than bracketing system, which in fact suffer from a hidden wrapping effect, and they blow up. Hence, the idea was that we needed to have both of them working together, because they seem to have complementary strengths, hence the software. Okay, so what our IOLAVABE does, it generates on the fly the hybrid bracketing system. This is very important because in my previous implementation it was done manually prior to simulation. Imagine the work, generate the code, symbolic analysis, compilation, and so on. Here you do not have to compile. You compile only once, and they are generated on the fly. So this is very, very sound. And there is a trick by Andreas who made this possible because he could give to VNODE the structure of a problem as a parameter. And this is the core contribution, and that was a very significant work and has a nice impact on this. So we can generate on the fly the bracketing system, and also we analyze the sign of partial derivatives using further derivation and constraint satisfaction problem, and so on. So we can obtain this kind of output. In red, classical outputs as given by VNODE. You can see the time steps. They are adapting, and they become very small when you are close to the time where it blows up. And in blue and green, the bracketing systems, they are sometimes are quite nice. Here, we do not know how to build them, so we just leave it on the side. And what you can see is that the software is capable of switching between the method, having both of them working in parallel, and then also because of here the time step is very large because the system is point system. So there is no uncertainty, hence VNODE can do the work very properly, and you have very large integration time steps. And then if you want to compare or synchronize both, we have to do some extra work, synchronize time step and intersect enclosures. There is also another nice work done by Andreas, that is he kept the Taylor coefficients in memory, hence he could recompute refined estimation within the time steps without having to redo VNODE work, for instance. So it's only interpolation, guaranteed one, but this can speed up the computation. And again, and then on the upper layer, it can detect when flow leaves invariant, or also forward-backward contraction is already implemented. If you give a pre-box and the post-box, it can contract the pre-box and post-box over a time horizon and give you only consistent solutions. Okay, just reaching the final time available. So algorithm parameters are available, and we have parser and the final structure. The architecture sketch, you can see it is based upon external libraries. Okay, differentiation, VNODE, here reevaluation using the interpolant. The main contribution, bracketing enclosures, and upon this you have several features that comes from iSAT, in particularly the possibility of having deductions and contracting pre-box, post-box. So our aim, or the aim of my talk, is not to tell you again about bracketing systems, but to tell you that it is now available in IOLAVABE, and hopefully you should try it, give us your advice, and tell us how it goes. And all the merits go back to Andreas, who did a very great job on this issue, and the website is here, but you just have to Google the names and it should be okay. Thank you for attention.
I was curious, I haven't seen the SAT solver actually in the structure of the software. What happens with this part of the...
It's, the aim is only to deal with the reachability part, forward, backward only. Because the SAT solver is under copyright and licensing issue, so this IOLAVABE is not connected to SAT solver. It's only, in fact, it's only forward and backward reachability.
Okay.
Any other question? If not, then we'll thank you.
Thank you.
Does want to close things?
Yes, I have to explain different things. First, for all of you, you have to define the keys for all those that were enclosures. So you have to give back the keys. What
To
else?
whom?
I just wanted to say that here,
To the glass.
Michel, I
car?
is going at 12:15, and Michel at 12:30, because some people prefer to. So this one is present. Okay, something like this. The keys, yes, the keys. So, what else I wanted to say? So, we still have to decide about the journal. So, if you have some preferences, please tell us. Otherwise, we'll decide without you. But we prefer with you. So, if you have any idea, please tell it to us. Also, next year, it is probably in Uppsala. Probably. So we'll see if it's possible or not. And probably the year after, it could be in Prague. Probably. But if you have other propositions, please tell it to us. What else? Nacim and me would like to thank you for coming and for everything. I would like also to thank Annick that organized almost everything. And that's finished. So you can eat now. So yeah, I'm stuck here for those
So, I don't know.
Donc, vous avez eu un badge. Est-ce que vous avez eu un badge visiteur? Non,